I'm Charlotte Davenport. I'm here at the Woodstock History Center with Chris Miller, who's going to be a guest in our community soon, speaking on a really exciting project in Montpelier, creating the Goddess of Agriculture Ceres, along with his friend Jerry Williams, on top of the State House. Now, how high is it? 14 feet, 15?
14 and a half feet.
Wonderful, wonderful project that I got very excited about. And it's going to be very, very interesting on Saturday, June 22nd, here at the History Center inside the building. These pieces that we're going to show you now will be on display, and they'll be on display here throughout the season. And also in the gardens at the History Center, we have carvers and sculptors, the ones we could get from this community, and hopefully we'll have more and more pieces from that particular community of Vermont artists appearing in Woodstock and maybe being purchased by people and share in this incredible history in Vermont through the sculpture community.
Great.
So if you have anything more to say, that was my announcement of the event. I'm very excited about that. The History Center is the host for the reception, and Sculpture Fest 2019, which is now over 30 years of shows, it's the co-host, and we're really thrilled about this collaboration and with you guys.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody come. And that turned into wanting Chris and Jerry to come here and visit Woodstock, because the very first series that went on top of the State House was, I guess, commissioned by George Perkins Marsh. In any case, he went to Florence. He got excited about these ideas of classical statuary and goddesses on tops of buildings and in public places. And so this is the third in that series of Ceres, Goddess of Agriculture. And I know very little about how it came to be with you and Jerry that you got this wonderful project, for us at least.
First, I'll get in trouble if I don't correct a few things.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
It was never a goddess. I mean, the Puritans in 1858 would never put a pagan goddess on the top of the building. It was an allegorical figure titled Agriculture, the first one was. Sometime around the turn of the century, around 1900, people started calling it the Goddess of Agriculture, and then Ceres, the Goddess of Agriculture, as like a nickname. So that when the second one was made in 80 years ago, the first one lasted 80 years, the second one 80 years later, and it was made by the Sergeant at Arms in the State House. He titled it Ceres 2, even though the first one was titled Agriculture. This version went back to the original design and has been titled Agriculture, and everybody at the State House is insisting that it always be called Agriculture, and that Ceres is the popular name. Everyone calls it Ceres. It's always going to be called Ceres. I call it Ceres.
They can't stop us.
It's one of those things that is just so ingrained now.
Yeah, and I was there at the opening when you brought it was raised to the top, which was exciting. Right. And someone did say from the historical side of the State House, I will admit she's a goddess, and then she did say, and I liked that. It was sort of fun to hear him switch. Yeah. That was good. Yeah. Well, so you and Jerry had known each other over the years because of your work.
We've worked on several projects together. There's a tradition in the Barre Sculpture Society that of collaborations and cooperation between sculptors. And a lot of times, one sculptor will make the model, and another person will rough it in, and another person will finish it sometimes. A lot of the time, you'll work from beginning to end on one sculpture. So I've roughed in things for Jerry, and Jerry's made models for me, and I have people that rough in stuff for me sometimes, and then I will sometimes give people a model to work on and different things. So there's a long tradition of that. It started.
So it's not competitive.
It's not. I mean, we all have our individual studios, and we all bid on different projects and things. This project, Jerry and I teamed up for a number of reasons. One was the timing. We had about 6 months from the original application
That's incredible.
the building, having it on the building, which is an insane amount of time.
It was.
I mean, it's a year and a half's work, but we ended up doing in a half a year. So there's no way for one person to have done all that, really. And you know, Jerry, in my opinion, is the top model maker in the state by far. And he's got a lot of experience with sort of a classically draped figure. So he's the perfect person for this. And
this came in about, last weekend.
Right.
So
right.
we're really glad to have this. This is not the one he did for you. This is a copy of that one,
Yeah,
correct?
all out of the same
And
mold,
the other,
yes.
the original piece that goes along with the piece on this State House is in the State House, and you can see that when you go to Montpelier.
Yes.
Along
And there's
with the one
another
on top.
version at the Granite Museum in Barrie where the
Good.
carving took place.
Yeah.
And that's got all the lines and marks and points on it.
So for
measuring
people
and
who
stuff.
really want to see how things happen, I recommend go to the Granite Museum. I took a group there, which is where I've known him for a while, but where I first experienced learning more about the history of all these people who are still, there are so many wonderful artists in that region. And we're just far enough away that I discovered not many people have gone up to see that. So, and you were there for how many days?
Oh my God. On this project, it was about 4.5 months in that building.
Almost daily.
Oh, more than daily. I was there from
At night.
first thing in the morning until 1 or 2 in the morning. It was just one of those things that you had to work around the clock to get
Well,
to.
the
It was a
wonderful
lot of
thing
fun.
was that people were invited from the public to come at any time. And if the door was an open knock,
Yeah.
make noise, and he would let you in.
Late at
and
night,
you
people would
could
come in and
see,
bring beer and things.
Describe the situation there, because it's phenomenal.
One of the best parts of this project was the public part of it. And I had, when we put this application together, one of our big points was that this is a project that is literally once in a lifetime.
Thank goodness.
And, yes. And we really ought to have it be an event that everybody in Vermont's invited to and everybody around the country is invited to. And we had maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people come through the museum. And some people came every week to watch the progress. We had bus groups from schools from Rutland that came in and from all over different places.
Busy place.
And it was a wonderful thing, you know, answering the same question over and over and over again. But it was a real joy because people really felt ownership of this project. This is their statue.
And they were allowed to ask questions. So the first thing I was curious about was this, when I first came in, huge laminated area of mahogany from Honduras. Describe the situation with the wood and how that happened to be from Honduras.
Well, it started out where the statue is white. It's supposed to look like marble, and it's on top of a wood frame dome, so it can't be 20,000 pounds. So the original one was white pine, which is basically a sponge, so it rotted after 80 years. The second one was ponderosa pine, which is a little better, but still only lasted 80 years. So we, learning from those failings and the way it was constructed, we came up with a good tropical hardwood that's known for rot resistance and insect resistance and things. So mahogany was the right material for it, and we can get it in big sizes, 3-inch thick and big, long 14-foot boards. So while Jerry was working on the model, he started on that right away. While that was going on, as soon as the model was at the stage, before we even cast it in the plaster, scanned it with a laser and made a 3D computer model to sort of save time on that. And then they took that computer model and divided it in 2.5-inch or 2 3/4-inch strips of the thickness of the wood. And it did like an MRI, and it did a printout, 15-foot printout on paper of every single layer, and there was 29 layers wide, every 2.5 inches all the way through.
Wow.
So each layer, you could plane out the wood and set it all up on a table, draw the outline of that layer, bandsaw off all the material. So that when you glued it up, and you had to index each layer and everything, it looked like a statue made out of Legos, all angular and things.
I know, it did.
And It was something like, I can't even remember now, the amount of wood. It was 2,000 board feet. Like,
and it was
no,
laminated at first into one big chunk, so it looked like a huge tree.
Right.
And when I went in, I was, is mahogany really that big? I was thinking.
Yeah.
But when you got up close to it, you could see it was a laminated form.
Absolutely.
Which was, how was it laminated so that it wouldn't crack?
It was laminated with epoxy with a fiberglass filler in it. And the reason it's laminated, instead of finding a giant tree, is a giant tree, as you carve through it, it's different layers of thickness and dryness, and it's going to crack. Sort of like a butcher block in your house.
Yeah.
Every layer can move a little bit, but when you glue it up, it's much stronger and much more stable that way. And the same with a statue like this. It would have giant cracks through it if it wasn't for laminating, so we laminated it
So
up.
is there a tradition of that through history with some of the really large things that we see? That the wood is sliced, laminated, and then carved, even maybe totems in certain cultures, or no?
I'm sure, like, you know, totem poles and different things are all from one piece of wood.
Usually,
And I mean, you know, early on it would have been all from solid pieces.
Yeah.
Certainly. But like the first one 150 years ago was laminated up.
Really?
I would have used a hide
that would
glue
make
of some
sense,
kind
of
or
course.
whatever.
How could they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I found that all very interesting, because if you haven't been around people doing this kind of work, it's almost impossible to dream up how it is done. And I've pointed out to my grown grandchildren and other people, we know very little about how a lot of memorial work is done and other things. And so this was an educational experience for many, many people. And the collaboration between the two of you has resulted in a very beautiful creation on top of the building. When I go there now to Montpelier, I go there first.
Yeah, to
and
see
it's
it,
like
sure.
you visit it. And
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, it was a real wonderful collaboration. Jerry's really great to work with. He's just an incredibly talented guy. And
He brought a little book in, which will be
his
here. We'll
book here,
describe what's in this space that we're in now. He brought a book in that shows examples of work he's done for projects that really draw upon his skills to reproduce things, to make the models for people's concepts. Jerry Williams left this book for us to share in the History Center. People are welcome to come in and turn the pages. He said it was okay. It feels kind of hardy. It's got some kind of coating. And these are just examples of things he's done over his career, commissions for people that were sometimes recreating work, or not too clear. You have to look at this book to see. I appreciated it because I didn't quite understand, wonderful line, this work, which includes people's own personal artistic work, along with this really hard work too, of taking on these jobs basically for other people and making wonderful things. So we'll end here with this model. Here's another example of a sculpture inside the building. This is a marble piece by Chris Miller. It was done several years ago, and it has been on the land up at Sculpture Fest on Prosper Road, and very much admired. But I love it lifted up like this. And the situation at Sculpture Fest was in what I call my white garden. And first of all, there was a lot of white around it, but also you were looking down at it. And this is a much better way to see it. And it will be here throughout this exhibit, Carvers and Sculptors at the Woodstock History Center. And Chris, do you want to tell us something about this piece?
I did this a couple of years ago at Vermont Studio Center when I was
A wonderful
a
place,
resident
isn't
there.
it?
Yeah,
I love it up there.
It's a great place.
I've had respite times up there too.
Yeah, I was there yesterday. Actually.
Great place to get new ideas.
Yes, it's a wonderful place. Yeah, this piece is Danby marble out of southern Vermont. Started out as a clay model, and then cast that in plaster, and measured from that. It was a full-size model, so it was a 1-to-1 measuring, all with hand chisels and.
Very different from working in your bigger studio spaces. to have a small model that's going right into marble and done in a couple of weeks, which is wonderful to see.
Yeah.
The title Leap interests me. I recognize some of the forms of Victory of Samothrace, or a dancer, and this uplifting. I keep saying she needs wings. She wants to fly.
Well, I like doing torsos from time to time. You know, plenty of other work that's portrait work and things. But I like the torso because it lacks sort of a specific personality.
Yep.
And this particular piece was all about sort of creating a movement and not as much paying attention to the accurate anatomy. So there's lots of things that are exaggerated and changed that you wouldn't do in like a portrait work.
Right. Well, I think it's a fresh-looking piece. I like it, and I hope people will come inside the History Center and see this one and see the model created by Jerry Williams, and also other things inside for the show, Carvers and Sculptors, including a piece by Hiram Parras that belongs to the History Center, which has been here for many, many years, and it's also a beautiful piece of marble to come take a look. But here we have this copy. I don't know how many, but the work of Hiram Parras has been reproduced, but this is a very, very good one in marble. And I have to say, I don't know the date that the History Center got it, but we're really lucky to have this a bust of America, which is known pretty much, not just in this country, but all over the world, because when he was born here in Woodstock and moved to Florence, and he never came back. So his work is here. The Greek slave, which you can read about here, did come at one point during Hiram Parras' lifetime, and when it came, it was hay season. It was in front of what is now our Woodstock Library, and very few people came. But it went on to world exhibitions and so on, the Greek slave being a kind of anti-slavery statement.
I love the similarity and look.
Yeah.
You know, the hairstyle, the look on the face.
It's exactly the same.
It really is the right period.
Yeah. If you just watch for this wonderful building and garden that comes right before the more commercial area of the town, beside the Prince and the Pauper restaurant, the Village Butcher, Gillingham's, wonderful little spot to visit in any case. The other thing about this spot, it's a great place to go eat your lunch down on the river, and it's the only part of the river where you can see the length of our covered bridge across the Ottaquechee. So we're going to go down there and look at some sculpture on the land and that view, which is one of the best points in Woodstock. Now we're down near the river behind the Dana House, looking at a few pieces of sculpture that are destined to be here for the next several months, and joined by other pieces. By June 22nd, this will have even more wonderful things placed for you to come and view. It's a beautiful spot to come and sit and have lunch or come in the evening. It's very quiet by the edge of this river, although we're in the middle of a very busy village. I'm looking around, just being glad to be under these lilacs. The gardens are extraordinary, taken care of, but not so fussy that you feel worried about little dogs running around. They let dogs come down and people sit and have lunch and children bump into things and it's all fine. So come see the sculpture show sometime between June 22nd and the end of the summer, well into Columbus Day probably. But most of all, come to the lecture and the talk and the celebration of this place, this town, the river, carvers and sculptors, and the new project in Montpelier with Jerry Williams and Chris Miller speaking to us inside the History House.